Okay, so we're gonna record this, but I wanted to start out, and I don't have it for the screen because we've got the Mike Ferry video loaded and things, but I wanted to start out by talking for just a minute about disclosures. And we went through all of the disclosures yesterday, that you have to take care of when you do a listing. And as I was going through those, some of you may remember that as we were going through those, we did not have, I guess due to my inability to load everything, I didn't get the seller property questionnaire loaded. And the seller property questionnaire is an important item. Now, I don't have it for loading on the screen here, unfortunately. But that being said, in the chat, Carolyn downloaded, like she always does, the packet of information that you need for today's handout. And in there is a seller property questionnaire that was supposed to be loaded yesterday, but that's the way it goes. So I want to talk about it just a little bit. And if you look at the one that you have that Carolyn downloaded for you, that's in your chat, or maybe you printed it out or whatever you do with it. I just want to let you know the seller property questionnaire is it's kind of an extension of the TDS. It's not an automatic. It's not anything that you'll see every time or anything, but very first line on there, it says this is not a substitute for the transfer disclosure statement. It is used by the seller to provide additional information when a TDS is completed. If the seller is exempt from a TDS, they're also exempt from the SPQ, the seller property questionnaire. But then a couple of things that I identified on there. You are strongly advised, and this is a note to the seller, you are strongly advised to carefully review the disclosure information advisory. Remember, we went over that yesterday. It's a good thing for a seller to read as they are preparing to do a TDS and an SPQ because it identifies certain things that they need to be aware of. Yes, you have to disclose that. No, you don't have to talk about that. That happened too long ago. Yes, you have to tell us today. Whatever it happens to be, it kind of goes through and identifies all of those things for you. And so when you're looking at those things for disclosure purposes, it tells you item by item. So here it says you are strongly advised to carefully review the disclosure information advisory before you complete this seller property questionnaire. All sellers of California real estate property are required to provide various disclosures, either by contract or by statute of case law. Many disclosures must be made within certain time limits. Okay, now what's our time limit? If you remember our time limit, on the RPA itself, if you just leave the default time limit in there, then we as the listing agent have to have it in the buyer's agent's hand, who is supposed to get it to their buyer within 7 days. 7 days of acceptance of the offer. So as the offer gets accepted, that starts our 7-day period. We have that many days to get it in their hands. It's a good idea to get these done when you take the listing or as soon after that as you can, because we only have that 7 days. If you get an offer on day number 1, thinking, oh, well, I'll do something a little bit later and things, now you have 7 days that you have to get it done. So anyway, unless that is changed in there, because the default is 7, however, there is a little line that allows you to change that if you want to. So if you feel like you need time for some reason or another, maybe they're doing some work on the property, maybe they're doing some different things, maybe they're out of town, maybe you're out of town, who knows what's going on. If there are things going on, then that automatically puts you in a position where you may need some extra time. But whatever it says in there, whether you default to the 7 or whether you change that time, that becomes that time limitation that you have to get things in the hand, because now it's in the contract. All right, so let's read through this real quick. We'll hit some of the highlighted areas and then we'll get on to handling objections. So disclosure limitations. The following are representations made by the seller. And this is an important part for you. You know, CAR, I've told you this before, but CAR is in the business of helping and protecting realtors. Every client's going to be different. Realtors are supposed to kind of act the same in a way with regards to contractual things. Following are representations made by the seller and are not the representations of the agent. All right, so as you talk through this seller property questionnaire, and when we get to the end, you'll see that there's no place on there for for you to sign. There's place for the buyer to sign. There's not a place for you to sign because it's not your disclosure. You may have to review it with them and make sure that they hit on the highlighted items, but just like the TDS, this one will have all of those yes and no's blocked out over on the side. So you wouldn't be able to answer it online ahead of time anyway. You'd have to print it out, check it off and give it to them. And we don't want to do that. We want to give it to them to fill out. Notice to seller, item number 2, purpose, to tell the buyer about known material and significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property and to help eliminate misunderstanding. So the idea from the seller standpoint is if it's a problem, if it's something you've had to do something with, maybe it's not a problem, maybe you fixed it, whatever, this is going to identify those things. But that's the purpose, is to affect the desirability and the value. And so by telling them good things, that affects the desirability as much as bad. Notice to the buyer, item number 3, the purpose is to give you the buyer, more information about known material and significant items affecting the value and desirability. So these are kind of judgmental at that point in time a little bit. It's objective in that it's something that you did or you didn't do or is wrong or is right or whatever the case is. But the subjectivity comes into it is that some things matter more to some people than others. Some guy comes in there, couple comes in there and they want to buy the house and they're going to make some changes anyway. So some of the things you talk about may not even make a difference to them. They're already thinking to themselves, well, we're gonna, this is the area we want to live in. But we're gonna blow out this wall and tear down this and move this around, and we're gonna remodel the kitchen because my wife doesn't like galley kitchens. She wants an open floor plan, so we're gonna call the Property Brothers or whatever and have them come down and tear out walls. Anyway, whatever their situation is, it's a subjective thing, but objectively, we tell them what is and what we have done and things. And that's what we're looking at when we look at a property questionnaire. Seller awareness for each statement below. If you answer yes, you need to identify that in the lines listed below. You can see that as you look through the several pages of this, that there's lines everywhere that say explanation, explanation, explanation. So if something requires an explanation, make it brief. Don't get yourself in trouble, but make it pertinent to what it was that you did or didn't do. All right. So yesterday, somebody asked a question about death on the property. And they wanted to know how come or where it was located. Where do I disclose that? Well, this is where you disclose it, is in the seller property questionnaire. Look at number 6, and it says within the last 3 years, has there been a death of occupant on the property? Now, that may require a little explanation, and the way it is legally and the way it says it here is the death of an occupant upon the property. But I will tell you that in the legal system, I'm surprised this hasn't been changed to has there been the death of anyone on the property, because there have been some cases that somebody said, well, he wasn't an occupant. He came over and slipped on the ice, or, well, I guess we don't have much ice around here, but he tripped down the stairs and sorry to say that he passed away and things. Well, so is he an occupant on the property? No. So from an absolute standpoint, I don't know if technicality wise would overdo that, but what it does is that it kind of put yourself in that situation of, is there anything that would affect the desirability of the property? And maybe that wouldn't. The property also is identified as the property. It doesn't say inside the home. It says on the property. So it could be a garage, it could be down the, back in the backyard. Yes,
It also says if there's a death of an occupant, what if there wasn't, what if it's the death of a visitor?
that's what I mean. Yeah, that's the part that's the gray area right now, because in that case, say for instance, it was the death of a visitor. Somebody came to visit and they had a heart attack, died in the living room or whatever. Slipped or tripped on the stairs or something. But that's not the death of an occupant. And so the answer to that would be no, there's not a death of an occupant. However, down below, when we explain other things that might be a deterrent to somebody, that would probably be a good idea to put that in, because if you came to it later and the buyer sued because he found out from the neighbor, oh, did you know that so-and-so fell down the stairs? And
I have a specific instance. I was working in a new home construction site and there was a suicide of an employee on property. But it was a vacant lot and it occurred inside one of those mobile offices. When the homes are built, what is the duty to disclose or something like that? Because it happened in a mobile office on a vacant lot before the homes were even constructed.
that's a good question. I don't think, probably you wouldn't know about it, for one thing. I don't know how you knew about it exactly, but probably.
It happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're there when somebody
Yeah.
commits suicide, I guess you're there. But when you're talking about a development like that.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a seller selling a specific property. Now, maybe the developer would have to disclose it to the person buying it. But that didn't happen to the seller that now owns the property. So, yeah, exactly. Anyway, interesting. It's funny how many, and you know what? Most of these forms that have come up with CR, and I've been in real estate for 36 years, just hit 36 years in June. And most of these forms have come up as a result of those very things. There gets to be a gray area. It goes to court, somebody sues somebody, and then CAR takes a look at it and says, well, how maybe can we prevent that or exclude that as one of our problems or something, and they try to move it in that direction. So there's going to be some things, frankly, when all is said and done, there's going to be some things that we just can't fix until after the fact, and then the court will have to take care of it. But the more we have and the better detail the seller is, then the better chance the seller has of staying out of court.
So when in doubt, it's best to disclose.
It is. If you actually know something, then, it's kind of one of those things where if you have to say, well, I should call and find out if I have to disclose this, probably you have to disclose it. You can still call and we can talk about it, but probably you have to disclose it. All right. Some of the other things in here I didn't highlight because they're pretty obvious things. Is there contamination? Are there illegal substances on the property or have been? And is it in an industrial or adjacent to an industrial use zone and those kind of things? But H, on number 6H, it does talk about insurance claims affecting the property within the last 5 years. And so that's the law. The law that's in place is within the last 5 years. So you take a look at it, and if there's been no insurance claims, then the answer to that legally would be no. And hopefully you've taken care of it, and you'd have invoices that would show that you took care of it, or you'd have the insurance claim that showed that you take care of it. And so I would ask the seller if they say, oh, well, yeah, we had a pipe break 3 years ago, but it's all been fixed. Okay, can we get a copy of that claim? Can we get a claim? Can we get an invoice copy or something else? Because from a buyer standpoint, they would probably like to know what was fixed. So that if the same thing happens again, or if it happens in the same place, maybe wasn't fixed. And I know you don't think this happens, but there are people out there that say, well, let's just get the insurance money and we'll take care of it ourselves. And then they take care of it with bubble gum and duct tape and maybe a improper wall patch on some drywall or something else. And it's not done quite right. And as a buyer, I would like to know that the homeowner didn't do it just because they thought they could take care of it themselves. Some can. We have homeowners out there that are construction people. They own construction companies. They're subcontractors for a construction company. They can do things. There are others that think they can do things and probably do a pretty good job of taking care of some things. I was talking to somebody not too long ago who said that they took care of a mold issue in a house. The seller took care of a mold issue in the house. And I said, oh, well, that's good. What did they do to take care of it? How did they know it was mold? Well, they had it tested. I said, okay, good. So they had a test. They knew it was mold. They knew it was the kind of mold that needed to be eradicated. And so how did they take care of it? Well, I think they sprayed bleach on it and sponged off that area. And well, all I can say is that now I can't see the mold anymore.
Yeah.
Because you used bleach and a sponge or a brush or whatever, and you took care of it that way. But had it been there long enough to seep into the wall behind, or the framing or the 2x4s or something else behind? And I don't know that if they didn't remove any of the drywall and things. So there are different ways to take care of things. And if I have a concerned buyer, then I'm going to be concerned that I have an invoice that shows some of those things and how it was done. So, and K, we talked a little bit about yesterday, and it had to do with the wood balconies. If you remember, there's a new wood balcony disclosure. And K says any inspection reports or any on any exterior balconies, stairways, or other elevated elements on buildings with 3 or more units. So that goes hand in hand with the form that we talked about yesterday, the WBSA wood balcony and stairs. So that's what it's referring to, is it's like, has there been an inspection by the owner, by the HOA, by the condominium owner? Has there been any inspection done? And if it is, I would like to provide that. I'd like to be able to tell them that. So yes or no, I may not know if it's been done. Probably I'll know if it's in a condo because they will have already been assessing me. So those are the important things to remember on the first page. And I'm not saying that the others are unimportant. I'm just saying that the others are a little more self-explanatory and probably don't need a lot of follow-up. So repairs and alterations, this is a chance for, well, above that, number L. Remember I said just a minute ago, material facts? Well, that's kind of a wide open. What's a material fact? You know, there could be suicide on the property when it was being built or something like that, but it wasn't but it might be a material fact to somebody. Must have been a tough construction company or something, or the boss was pretty hard. Had a lot of things going on in their life or something, I don't know. But the bottom line is if it's something that we think is, if they think, again, it's not me, is it? It's the seller. Is there anything going on here that you think? I'm not gonna pin them down and ask them for anything they know. I'm just going to say, or the form just says, are there any material facts affecting the property not otherwise disclosed to the buyer? Otherwise disclosed to the buyer is otherwise any of the other disclosures that we went through yesterday. So is there anything that we disclosed or did not disclose that we think might be a material fact? And that's the opportunity for us to write there, if checked. And it may require an attachment, it may require something else, but bottom line is that there are some possibilities that there are things that were not covered in one of the disclosures that somebody just had a question about. And they might call and ask you, the seller might call and say, you know, I don't really know, this happened here and but it really doesn't say it in any disclosures. Do you think that's an issue?
Gary, I have a question.
Yeah.
So it says, I believe on the form, it says something, what you just said about, unless otherwise disclosed. And you said that it might have been disclosed on another disclosure form. Are there any other ways to quote unquote properly disclose something? For example, mentioning it in a counter offer or something like that?
Well, I guess you could. You really wouldn't have to. The offer and the counter offer are kind of separate from the disclosure thing. It requires disclosures, but the contract is actually to negotiate the contract, and a counter is to offset something that was discussed in the offer itself. But there's a lot of ways that you can disclose it after the fact. And part of it's going to be these type of forms. Part of it's going to be one of the things it says in here later on, and we'll probably hit on it in a second, but has to do with anything that we've had to do to the house that we have invoices for. We replaced the roof on such and such a day. Here's the invoice, and this is the company that did it. Because that warranty is a roof warranty, not a personal warranty, so it passes on with the roof. And so there are things that we may have done that are not disclosed anywhere else, but this is an opportunity for us to disclose it. And an invoice is something that backs up that part of the disclosure. Does that make sense, or does that confuse it?
Yes, I think you answered the question. Thank you.
Okay,
Terry,
yes,
is it true that if you make a disclosure outside of the due diligence period, that it's considered a subsequent disclosure and therefore opens it up to a 3-day right of rescission?
it does.
So
Yeah,
be careful about this.
So the question, did you hear the question? In case you didn't hear it, it came from inside the office here, but the question basically was that if we have things that happen outside of the disclosure period, can it still be used as a rescission period if you disclose to for instance, and let's just talk, and this is a terrible one to talk about, but let's just say death on the property. You did your due diligence, you did your disclosures, the seller filled everything out, and there was no death on the property. And then sometime during the escrow period, there was a death on the property. So that becomes a new disclosure item. We put, if you remember that form that we talked about yesterday, it's a newer form that is available, and it says additional disclosure advisory or addendum to disclosures. And the addendum to disclosures is new things, and it can be bad, it can be good. It can be that you, in your seller's disclosure here, you put down that, some of the appliances weren't working. But during the course of the contract, you had your stove and your dishwasher replaced. You replaced your dishwasher because it wasn't working and you had to have a matching stove. You thought in your mind, so you put in a matching stove too. So that's something that I can now do an addendum to the disclosure, which is a separate form on its own. And you can addendize anything that has happened during the course of things to either cause an issue or to kind of brag and pump up the property value a little bit, not in contract, but in somebody's mind. So repairs and alterations. Any repairs and alterations that you've made to the property should be identified, and actually, like I said, it's kind of a bragging thing. It's like, yeah, we replaced this or replaced that. We have to remember that it notes on here, including those resulting from a home warranty claim. So if I had a house and I had a home warranty on it and I'd been in it for a couple of years and I renewed my home warranty and things, and the home warranty company fixed something, well, it's fixed, but now there's also a record of it, which means that possibly down the road, that buyer may not be able to get that thing fixed again because the home warranty company came out and fixed it once and told them then that it needed to be replaced or whatever the situation is. So whatever we've done, we need to identify any alterations, any modifications, any improvements, any replacements. We need to identify any of those things. We need to let them know if any part of the property was painted in the last 12 months. Now, again, that's something, a lot of times that happens in homes because the 3 of the bedrooms were painted because I had kids in there, but we wanted to get it ready for sale. And so we painted it. Well, that's, that's a plus. Those are pluses. So people don't always need to think that they're negatives. If you have any room additions or structural modifications, were they performed by a contractor and were they done by permit? And that's just something that we need to let people know. Well, I replaced this. Did you replace it yourself? Yeah, I just replaced it myself. Okay, so you replaced it yourself. Now the buyer can take extra time with his home inspector to see if whatever it was that you did was done in a workmanlike manner. And that's kind of what we're trying to do is we're trying to disclose everything that's been done so that it opens up to the buyer to be able to get additional inspections if they want. Yeah, we repainted the ceiling in the kitchen. Oh, okay, that's cool. Looks good. Somebody did a good job repainting and things like that. But now what does the buyer maybe think? So, which is okay for the buyer to think, but the buyer may ask the next question, was there a leak or something? And if there was, then hopefully you've identified that there was a leak somewhere else in one of your disclosures. Maybe there's some roof repair taken care of. And so what it does is all of the disclosures, it opens it up to a buyer to ask additional questions and ask for additional verifications of things. And that's just going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. Pets and animals on a property, past or present, it says on here now, because we've had people that have said, well, we had pets before, but when our little dog Timmy passed away, then we didn't get a new one because we were so heartbroken and all that stuff. And that was 3 years ago. That was 4 years ago, or whatever it happened to be. Well, that's okay, but your carpets have they been replaced, or the carpets are still the same? Has anybody done anything materially since then to take care of things? It just leaves, there are people, I have a son, I have a couple of sons, but I have one son that is extremely allergic to pet hair dander or whatever it is that they get allergic to. And since he was born, we haven't been able to have a dog or a cat, which is perfect for me. That's why I had a son that was allergic to those things, because I didn't want a dog and a cat. Personal opinion, I'm an outdoors type guy and things, and I've had horses and but I don't need a dog sitting on my lap while I'm watching a ball game at night. I'm not that kind of guy. Don't criticize me. Don't judge. That's just not me.
If they bury a deceased pet in the backyard.
Well, were there pets on the property? I don't think they worry about the one that's buried in the backyard as much as they do what might have happened on the inside, because dogs and cats, no matter how housebroken they are, litter box trained they are, or anything else, they have accidents, they stray, they throw up every once in a while because you fed them something from the kitchen table instead of from their dog pack or whatever. So were there pets or not? It's an easy answer. Then they can, if it leads to other questions like, well, yes, we've had pets in the past. And you can identify in the explanation, no pets in the house since January of 2002. And then somebody may look at that and say, oh, well, 2002, that's like over 20 years ago. So anyway, but it might still cause issues. Have you replaced carpets or anything since then? So anyway, it just opens it up for maybe additional questions. But the idea is that we're going to tell them the truth one way or the other. Do we have boundaries and access rights that we're sharing with other people? Well, here's my boundaries. We have things all the time in rural California. We have things all the time where somebody lives on a 2.5 acre piece of property and the guy below them on the hill or whatever has given them access to the property through this dirt driveway over here on the side so that I don't have to go all the way around to where the road actually is. If there are things like that, tell people. Tell people that the access has been through this neighbor's property. And I'm not sure if that neighbor's gonna like you as much as he liked me. Which is the truth. You know, you sell your house and the neighbor might say, well, okay, that's okay. Cause I was thinking of gating that off anyway. Well, now even the property line that you showed him when you drove up there is not the right property line. So we may have issues that
What we got.
we may have issues that, boundaries or access or egress or anything else is a problem. We just need to let people know. Landscaping, pool and spa, is there anything wrong with any of that? Pool looks like it's well maintained and taken care of. Condominiums, this is one where we're gonna hit on real quick, only because and we talked about this yesterday, but if you have a condominium, if you're dealing with an HOA, if you're dealing with any kind of a thing, and somebody sometimes says, well, it's not even an HOA, how can there be CC&Rs and deed restrictions? Well, there can be, because when the builder built the community, they may have had some CC&Rs that everybody decided that this was a desert community and all the buildings need to be desert-scaped and landscaped. There's not a lot of water, there may be what, and so those become CC&Rs and deed restrictions, whether it's an HOA or not. It's a deed restriction on a house that says that you can't paint it pink. It's beige because we want desert scaping and that's just what we want. Happy birthday again, Linda, if I don't see you before the end of the day.
Can you explain what CC&Rs mean?
Yeah, they're community covenants and restrictions, and what they are is they're set up by the community, either when the community is being built or perhaps if there's an HOA, homeowners association. The community covenants and restrictions and deed restrictions all are placed on a property early in the building. You know, you drive around today and you see new building going on all over the place. And most of the houses are very similar colors. You know, maybe they're all beige, off kind of tan or desert sand type colors or something like that. So probably when the builder was developing and he turned in his development plans, the city looked at it and said, well, we love the idea of you doing a development, but we want to maintain the desert. Our general plan calls for the desert thing, the desert theme and colors and things to be this. And they give you some alternatives for color. I went to Spain in October and I went to Spain and they obviously, if they have covenants and community covenants and restrictions, it must be that every other house has to be a different color and it has to be bright. Because as we went around, all the neighborhoods and things would be green, pink, purple, blue, yellow, and they'd all be different colors. And around here, and when I say here, I'm talking about the United States, basically. We try to, and I'm not involved in it, but the cities and the counties try to put some restrictions on what can be done to a house or what can't be done to a house to try to protect the neighbors and the neighborhood and the city and things. And so they establish the community covenants and sometimes deed restrictions, which absolutely nails down what you can or can't do.
Are CC&Rs associated with HOA at all, or are they totally separate?
They're a separate item. However, associations often incorporate those,
So the associations don't create the CC&Rs.
not
They've
upfront.
been created by the community.
Yeah. There's homeowners association rules and regulations, which identify that you have to be 55 or over to live here. You can't park an RV on the side of your house. You can only have one car in the driveway. You can't park on the street,
Right.
you know, and those kind of things, those are developed That's not a developer caring about CCNRs. That's a homeowners association
Right.
caring about these.
We do too, because whenever you order HOA docs, they always include CCNR.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I always thought that they were produced by the HOA, but
No,
when I worked in new home construction, the CCNRs came before the HOA.
exactly. And that's exactly what happens. The CCNRs are community
Right.
covenants and restrictions where homeowners associations generally incorporate those because that's something else they don't have to write up. It's already in place. And so as an HOA, we need to incorporate those. But in addition to that, you can't have a dog over 35 pounds. You don't want big dogs in the neighborhood. And you can't park on the street and things like that. So they have, but that's not a community thing. That's a HOA thing. Good question. Good. Does that answer your question out there, kiddo? She fell asleep during the
No,
explanation.
sorry, I was trying to find the mute button. I'm good. Thank you so much.
I was gonna say, a lot of times when I'm talking, people doze off, so I just go ahead and assume that, so anyway. All right. So, go to the next page, the last page here, and, because we need to get on with the rest of this, but neighborhoods, neighborhood noise problems, nuisances and things. Neighborhood noise problems and nuisances are something that's a constant, okay? I have had I've had 4 kids in my life and, during different times, our garage was used as a playroom where the garage door was just flung open and there was a air hockey game in there and a foosball table and things like that. And so for a period of time, that was a noise nuisance, I'm sure, to the neighbor on the side. I'd get every once in a while, the neighbor come over and knock on the door and say, your kid's gonna be out there much longer? And I'd close the garage door and I'd go tell them to quiet down and stuff. That's not considered a noise problem. It was to that neighbor at that specific time, but it was not something that was going to be there on a regular basis. Neighborhood noise problems are that you built a house underneath the flyway of an airport. And that's gonna be a noise problem for the whole rest of the time you're there. It's just, there's no way to, there's a train track that runs adjacent to the property over there about a mile away. And of course, in order to avoid traffic, they travel in the middle of the night. So a lot of times as they come to a crossing, you'll get a 3 o'clock train whistle. So those are things that affect the,
Right, or there's a dairy farm.
yeah,
All the cow manure.
all those kind of things. So those are neighborhood noise problems, airplanes, trains, light rail, subways, trucks, freeways, buses, schools, restaurants. I sold a couple of houses a couple of years ago on this cul-de-sac street. That was, it was sweet for the people that lived there when school was not in session or at 8 o'clock in the morning or at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that whole cul-de-sac filled with people picking up their kids because they couldn't park on the main road, so they'd park in the cul-de-sac. So it would jam the cul-de-sac. You couldn't get anywhere in the cul-de-sac. You couldn't even pull your car out of the driveway. Well, that's a little bit of an issue. That's not going to change. The school is there. Your house is here. There's going to be that transition time when school's in session. So that's something that you let people know. I'm not going to show the house during those times because I need a place to park. And so they won't see it. So it's something that the seller has to be willing to let people know. Oh, but we ignore it. We don't even pay attention to that. I have a brother that I went to visit one time in the house that he had just moved into, and we were sitting there and just having dinner or lunch or something like that, maybe just sitting around. But anyway, all of a sudden I hear woo, 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 woo. It was great. The house shook a little bit, not terribly or anything. And I said something like, wow, you're awful close to the trains. And he goes, yeah, you know what? We don't even notice it. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe they don't notice it. I don't know. Maybe if you live there long enough, you don't notice it. So it doesn't become a noise problem, but it could be to somebody else. And so if you see those kind of things, this isn't our disclosure, but you can certainly make it. You can certainly have your sellers make it apparent somebody there could be an issue. Okay. And then here we go. This last thing I highlighted was material facts. And notice that the way it's listed, because people think there's a time limit on disclosure sometimes. Well, there's a time limit on how quickly we have to get it to people here. It says, but it says any past or present known material facts or other significant items affecting the value. And that's what we check. Any past or present material facts. And so that kind of opens it up a little bit, and a seller has to decide about that. But again, it's a seller disclosure. And if it happened a long time ago, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to pin them down and ask them for additional information about something that happened 10 years ago or something. But if they think it's a material fact, then they would disclose it. And there is no time limit on that. So that's enough of that. Hope we didn't spend too much time. I'm going to go right to the video here for handling objections, because we did spend a little bit of time. Property questionnaire. I hope that was helpful for you, and that now you understand why I wanted to bring it to the forefront, even though I didn't include it with the disclosures yesterday for some reason. But anyway, that being.
Terry, I have a question, quick,
Yes.
before you go to the video. If there's a cemetery near the property, do you have to disclose that?
To me, but understand it's subjective. It's not, it doesn't qualify for any of the disclosure items. I mean, just because it's creepy to some people, do you think, or?
Right,
Yeah, there is nothing loopy that says that. I would think probably the buyer would understand that. Certainly you could tell them that if you wanted to, but I don't think there's a disclosure that identifies that, because cemeteries are usually nice and peaceful and green, nice trees and have shade and all that kind of stuff. So, but somebody might be bothered by it. I don't know.
But it's considered something that might materially affect the value of the property when this will.
Maybe.
No.
Yeah. It was just brought up in here that it's something that to somebody, it might materially affect it. So it certainly doesn't hurt to do that. One of the things on the, if you remember the form yesterday or the forms yesterday, one of the things I titled the thing is disclose, disclose, disclose. And so maybe if you, Loopy, if it's kind of an issue to you, then may very well be an issue to somebody else. And so probably in that case, I would go ahead and disclose it in other facts, but it would be in your facts, because the seller doesn't have to disclose it. It's not a legal obligation of the seller. But when I do the TDS, or when I do the Avid or something, then if I felt it was an issue or could be an issue, then certainly it's better to protect yourself than not.
right. Okay, thank you.
I worked for a builder, and they discovered that part of their community that they were building was over an Indian burial ground.
That's not good. I'm
So they took
surprised.
care of it, but then they quietly put in a disclosure in their long form disclosures. They just put in a quick sentence or paragraph in the disclosure to cover their base, but it was not something that they highlighted.
Yeah, it's not something that has to be disclosed by law, but any of those things that you think, and just like Luffy brought it up and stuff, it's anything that you think that could materially affect it and things, or it could bother people. There's a lot of things that happen with houses. I've shown a lot of houses in my life. And I have shown houses, and I'm not going to pick on any nationalities or anything else, but I have shown houses where I couldn't even get the buyer to go in because the front door lined up with the back door. And that was in their belief, that was an issue. And I don't even know what the issue was. Okay, I didn't bother to ask them. It was an issue to them. And I've had people tell me that they've looked at these lists of properties that I've said, we're going to go see these Saturday. So let's allow like 3 hours. And they would call me back or email me back or whatever. And they would say, well, we don't want to see this one. And we don't want to see this one because it has a 4 in the address. Now, I don't know what that is, but to them, 4 in the address was unlucky or bad vibes or spiritual something or others, and I don't know. I've had people tell me that they want to see properties with 8s in the address because 8 was a lucky number to them. So I've had a lot of different people, and I think about, like I just said about the cemetery, I don't know, have you driven down the 10 before and you see Forest Lawn up there? Heck, I'd love to have a house on the hill next to Forest Lawn. That's like top of the line cemetery, all green and trees everywhere and things. But somebody else that may think that at night that spirits come out or whatever, I don't really know. But I think it's a good thing there's not a requirement for it, but I don't think it's a bad thing to put in there. Or if it's built on an Indian burial ground, we've got a lot of those properties in Riverside County.
You'd be surprised at what people accept if you just disclose.
Yeah, if you just tell them ahead of time.
They'll accept it.
Yeah.
Somebody was murdered here? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think I told the story yesterday about Moreno Valley, but I had one on Bay Street in Moreno Valley that when I drove up to try to see it and get pictures and all that kind of stuff, there was white sheets all over the ground. And when I say all over the ground, I'm talking there were like 4 or 5 of them. But I couldn't get close enough to take a picture because the police had it all cordoned off. And I found out afterwards that it was a combination drug and coyote house, and where they were smuggling people one way or the other and hiding people in the house and all that stuff. And anyway, there turned out to be a big gunfight and a lot of people were killed. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to sell that? And I put it on the market and we disclosed it, but we didn't have to disclose it in a regular disclosure because it was a Freddie Mac foreclosure listing. And Freddie Mac isn't required to disclose any of those things. In fact, they wouldn't even know about it if I didn't call and tell them. So they aren't required to disclose it, but I disclosed it. And I thought, I don't know what that's going to do to the value of the property. And as a foreclosed property, the price was already reasonable. And some investors bought it and closed escrow in like 3 weeks. They didn't even care. So, did you know that there were people shot all over the land? Well, are they still shooting? No, they're not still shooting. Okay, here's the money. And so who knows what's going to affect it? And I think that those are important things for us to think about too. All right, we're going to go to the video now and let Tony talk to us about objection handling and things. And what he's going to do is he's going to go through a lot of the regular standard objections that we have happen in our routine. In your handout and in some of our scripts, actually, there are in our scripts and role-playing scripts, I think there's probably 40 objections or the way to handle objections and respond to objections. But there's about a dozen of them that you use on a fairly regular basis. And I think those are the ones to kind of get a handle on, the ones that you hear the most, not the ones that you hear the least. And so we're going to go over some of those, and then I will, we'll see how much time we have left at the end of that.
Hello there. Welcome back to The Foundation. You have been on a journey to construct a foundation in your real estate career that we're excited about. I hope you're excited about. You've had the work on your shoulders. I hope you're doing the work, okay? My name is Tony Smith, Vice President of the company. I am excited to be going through this journey with you. But let's keep in mind, Mike Ferry created this whole process with the Mike Ferry sales system, and we have been operating this around North America and other parts of the world for a long, long time. And we have so much experience with the agents that we've gotten to work with. That's how we can create a foundation that has such stability, that's so solid. It's based on facts, it's based on knowledge, it's based on proving what works. And so I hope you're creating this foundation. I hope you're not scrutinizing it. I hope your ego's not getting in the way and blocking portions of it. I definitely hope you're doing the work, okay? A lot of times we need a lot of backup and accountability to do work, don't we? In the last segment was a major one, the listing presentation. One of the biggest segments, right? Have you been writing out the listing presentation every day? I know it takes 30, 40 minutes to write it out. I know it feels like it's, homework. It is homework. We want you to get the dialogue into your brain. And that's one of the fastest ways. Have you been practicing it once, either a practice, or have you been practicing it live in front of people? Have you been using your trigger cards and the scripts? Have you been taking your scripts to the presentation and reading them and using them? All right. One live or one practice presentation every day you work. That means you'll get in 200, 250, 300 presentations a year practice. You can't help but get better if you practice like that. Have you videotaped yourself yet? Have you set the camera up and videotaped a practice? Man, you can learn so much about that. Have you gotten your pre-listing package done? Is it neat and clean, ego-free, crisp, ready to get out to all those incredible sellers? And then the last one, have you gone over that plan of action, and do you have a thorough understanding of the plan of action? Have you got that set for yourself? That was the last section that we were on, okay? Remember, if you get behind, you go away for 3 days, you go on a vacation, you get set back, you lose track, you can always back up a section or two and start over and make sure you get there. It's more important that you build a strong foundation than it is to finish fast. Okay, I know some of you watching today, you're like the fast people, right? I want to get this done. Let me see if I can do this whole thing by Friday. Well, it's an idea. However, that's not a foundation, right? Do you want to pour a bunch of concrete on the ground without the forms and just let it see what happens? It ends up crumbling under your feet. Progress at a good pace, but don't go too fast, okay? We're in another major section today. We're talking about the 8th major brick in the foundation, which is called handling objections, right? If you notice, there's 10 major bricks in this foundation you're standing on, okay? And this is the 8th major brick, and it's titled handling objections. Handling objections. Boy, it is something in our industry, because we have proof of agents, and we've seen so many agents that have come before us, and they come before us and say, Tony, I've been at this 15, 20 years, and I wished I'd learned how to handle objections 20 years ago. I've always put that piece off. I wished I'd done that, I have some regrets. Do you want to build a foundation without a lot of regrets in the future? One thing we have to understand is this segment today. I wrote down, okay, so we've discussed throughout this program, it's a solid foundation starting to form now, right? Do you want better financial security? If you want better financial security, do you want to be able to go through the ups and down cycles of a real estate market? A foundation helps you through the ups and downs. I wrote down, you need to fully adopt and understand the fact that buyers and sellers always have the same objections. They've been objecting today the way they've been objecting 50, 75 years ago. The objections don't change, okay? And you need to understand a major portion of you being able to succeed through the ups and downs and ins and outs of real estate is your ability to have some answers internalized for the objections you're going to receive. You're going to receive them, okay? Is it better for us just to expect a solid foundation, hoping no one ever objects to us? Or is it just safer to build a foundation having the responses for the objections we know we're going to get? Of course, the second, right? So this is our time to spend some time in understanding how to truly internalize the objection handlers. Okay, they're there. So let's look at these points together, okay? Point 1, we have to know the difference between an objection, which is simply a question unanswered in the mind of the prospect. An objection, there's a question they need answered before they move forward. That's all it is. And a condition, which is a statement of fact that we can do nothing about. Right? We mentioned this earlier when we were talking about lead follow-up and even in pre-qualing. We talked about the difference between objections and conditions. I don't want you to confuse the two, because when we go to look at handling objections, it's very hard to ever overcome an objection if it's actually a condition, right? There's not too many words that can overcome a statement of fact. Remember what we talked about? We talked about we're not going to sell until the kids graduate from high school. We're not going to sell until my husband retires. We're not going to sell until the mortgages get organized and paid off. We're not going to sell until In some cases, until the job transfer goes through. There's a lot of conditions that people have, right? That's not objection handling. That is understanding the condition and then working with that client to still get the listing. Objections are the question that's unanswered. And so if we understand that if they just have a question that's unanswered, we can solve that. And we can solve that right on the spot and move them forward. Okay? Number 2 I wrote down. This is major. So if you're going to put a star by something, put a star by this, okay? There is a direct correlation between the number of objections you receive, and the strength and quality of your presentation. Okay, there's a connection. There's a direct correlation between how often you're getting objections and how many, and the strength and quality of your presentation. Okay, in the next segment, we're talking about buyers. So we're still staying on the seller side of things right now, but let's just look at, presenting to a seller. You're in a listing presentation. The strength and quality of your presentation will minimize the objections you receive, right? Because you're so strong and you're powerful and you're confident and you've got a script and you're working through it, you're using our 5-step process, right? That shrinks the amount of objections you receive. If it's rocky or bumpy or unorganized, naturally, the seller's going to throw more objections at you. It's their way of trying to get out of something. I don't think you're the right person for the job, so let me throw you. How much commission do you charge anyway? We want you to cut your commission, right? They will throw things at you because of the strength of your presentation. So if you want the objections in the smallest way possible, keep working on that listing presentation of yours. Keep refining it, keep perfecting it, keep practicing it. The better you get at that, the least objections you have to receive. You talk to some of our agents, long-term coaching clients, been at this 30 years, really refined presentation. And then you say, how often do you get that we're considering another agent? Hardly ever. How often do you get, really seriously, we want you to cut your commission? Not that often. How often do you get, we're thinking about another company? I haven't gotten that in years. And the reason is they're so strong that the client can't object that way. They cannot. Strengthen your presentation. It reduces objections. All right. 3 I wrote down. This is kind of our model for handling objections, right? When handling objections, always agree, always smile, always nod your head, and never argue. Okay? Always agree, always smile, always nod your head, and never argue. It's like, yeah, of course I understand. I can appreciate where you're coming from. I understand. I get this all the time. This is natural for you to do that. This is so normal for you to object. I appreciate it. It's that space versus, what? You're asking me to cut my commission? What, are you attacking me? It's not an attack. Okay? We always say, hey, can you win an argument with the seller? No. Yes, you can win an argument with the seller. You just won't get the listing. So we're not going to, there's no arguing. You're not going to win that. You're going to see it when you see our objection handlers. They're always designed to, I can appreciate that. I can understand your concern, right? It's an acknowledgement. That's how you win over an objection, right? Never argue. Smile, nod your head, agree, all right? 4, we must recognize at times that the prospect simply brings up an objection to make conversation and slow down the sales process. Okay, many times people will just throw something out. If I'm a seller and I'm thinking about, and I've got you in front of me and I'm going to sell my home, this is a major decision for us, right? There's a sales taking place, which makes me uncomfortable. And I just might want to throw an objection in there just to let you know that I'm part of the process and I'm thinking and I'm smart, right? And so there's many times that you need to understand in a presentation that when someone objects, they're probably just doing that. Hey, so what's your commission anyway? Just throw it out of the blue, right? Oh, great question. Okay. Why don't I continue with my presentation and we'll cover that in a moment. You continue your presentation, never comes up again, right? Hey, tell me, what do you do? What about advertising? Oh, excellent. So marketing the home, that's a very important part. Can I just continue along? And we'll definitely cover what we do to get the home sold in a minute, Mr. Seller. Okay, move along. It never comes up again. You have a signature, you leave, it never comes up. You have to recognize that objections, sometimes they're just making conversation. Keep moving forward in your presentation. All right. 5, remember, in most cases, the prospect is not going to object if they're not considering hiring you. Remember, in most cases, if you're not even in the running and they have no interest in you at all, you typically get these types. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so awesome. Well, good. You sound great. Oh, good for you. We'll call you back later, okay? In fact, we'll talk to you tomorrow about this. We think we're going to go your direction. That is so much more common if they're not even thinking about hiring you versus an objection. So when you get an objection, I want your brain to go, all right, I'm in the running. They're considering me. They're thinking about me. They wouldn't do that if they weren't. I've got a shot here. And if you can see it like that instead of an attack on you, they're not attacking you. They're actually considering you, so they have a question or two. Can you see the difference? Can you see the difference? I hope so, okay? It's a great sign. We love objections. I love it because I'm getting that much closer to a signature. It's perfect, right? 6, our 5-step listing process. The 5-step listing process. Remember, we went through it in detail in the last section, right? Our 5-step listing process is designed to draw out the objections in advance so you can be prepared for them. The 5-step process, right? We pre-qualify 100% of the time. That can draw out objections. Hey, what's your commission, right? You got a note. You're going to be ready for that one. We mail or deliver the pre-listing package that you created. It's got the net sheet in there. It's got the comps. It's got the contract. It has the commission. It has all those things designed to draw out more of the objections, right? We call back and confirm. Did you read the package? It's designed to draw out the objections. Our whole goal is if there's something that's going to stop you in your tracks, let's see if we can get it in advance so we can rehearse it, practice it, be prepared for it. Our competitors don't do this at all. Our competitors have to learn how on the fly to try to handle something they had no idea was coming. If you use our process, you know the objections in advance, okay? If you're skipping the process, you might get blindsided too, okay? Very important. 7, since objections never change, they never change, and since they probably will never change, simply know the answers. Okay, since objections never change and they probably never will change, simply know the answers. You know, it's so interesting because we have these objections. You have them all in your package, by the way. We have our 12 most common objections. We'll get there in a minute. We'll take a look for a second, okay? But we have those 12 most common objections. They're in the package, right? Has anyone ever asked you to cut your commission? Hey, we want you to cut your commission. Do you think that's ever been heard before? We only want to give you a short-term, a 30-day listing. Has that ever been heard before? No, we have a friend in the business. We have a friend. We're thinking about using our friend. Has that ever happened before? Right? We want to list really high and we'll come down later. These they've been used for 100 years because that's what sellers are concerned about. So it's better for you to dive into the answers and get this figured out than it is for you to expect for them to go away. This one baffles me. It literally baffles me with agents that they don't learn the answers to these things, but they just expect them maybe to disappear someday. They're not going to disappear. Understand the answers. It's interesting, right? Okay. 8, the best way to learn how to handle objections. Okay, so we're going to give you there's 3 little steps of how to learn how to handle objections. Okay, let's look at these together. A, memorize and internalize the script. Memorize and internalize the script. Memorize and internalize the script. Right? That's one of the best ways to learn how. Memorize. Do you remember back when you used to memorize? Remember you had to memorize your multiplication tables? Well, look here. Here, right here. If these aren't in your package, but you have the scripts, they're the same things here. We have something that you could, if you want, you can go online on our products page. If you want them already done in a format like this, they're called trigger cards. They're really affordable, right? But you can buy a package of these trigger cards. You've seen these sitting here the whole time, right? These are our Mike Ferry trigger cards. It's basically all of the scripts and dialogues that are in your book, but they're in this format. And we put them in this format because we know that people learn that way. And so you can learn, you can take a trigger card. We want to only give you a 30 to 90-day listing. I'm sorry, I won't do that. 6 months is our company policy. Therefore, all we need to do now is simply sign the contract so I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Won't that be great? You've got a trigger card, right? So you might do that, right? You have to memorize and internalize the scripts. Maybe, in fact, I think we probably should make this homework. If you don't buy these trigger cards, take all of the scripts and put them on your own 3x5 or these bigger cards. So you can have the objection on one side and the answer on the other, and you can literally memorize them. You can read the objection, turn it over, read it, read the objection, try to memorize it, and see if you can chant it. Do you mean I have to do that? Yes, because you have to get these things down, right? Memorize and internalize the scripts. The second way to handle this, learn to understand the logic in the scripts. Learn to understand the logic, right? You think it's logical? I mean, would it be normal for a seller to maybe think that they should list with their friend? I mean, is that unrealistic for them to think they should list with their friend? Is it unrealistic for someone to think, well, why don't I get a short-term listing agreement? I don't want to be tied up for 6 months. Is that logical for them to, is that really something they might have a right to expect? Right? I don't want to leave any money on the table. Let's try up here at this price and then we can list it down here later. Isn't that logical? Like sometimes we have to ask ourselves, these objections are things that a seller has the right to be concerned about, don't they? Can you really work to understand the logic in the scripts? And then our responses are very logical, right? We want to give you a 30-day listing. I'm sorry, I won't do that. 6 months is our company policy. Therefore, all we need to do now is simply sign the contract so I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Won't that be great? That's logical. The company requires 6 months. Logical. Okay, so work to understand the logic. And then C, understand the client will believe you when you believe you. When it comes to objection handling, when you see our response and you see the logic in it and you believe that you're the right agent for the job. Are you the right agent for the job? I hope you're shaking your head yes, right? Are you going to provide incredible service? I hope you're shaking your head yes. Are you going to communicate with the seller the way you're supposed to? I hope you're shaking your head. Are you going to work your butt off to get the home sold? I hope you're saying yes. If you're the right person for the job and you believe that here, then the client is going to believe you when you handle the objection. Does that make sense? I hope so. That is our best way to learn the objection handlers, is understanding those 3 points. Okay. Now, we've got our rules for handling objections, which also shows up as a separate page in your workbook. The rules for handling objections. We have the rules, okay? So let's go through the rules. We mentioned this already. Never argue, always agree. Well, let's look at this. These are the objections in your workbook, right? So we were thinking about X company, or we've never heard of your company, right? Think about this. We were thinking, I can understand your concern. Do you see that? That's not arguing. Never argue, always agree. I can understand your concern. And I think you realize a company doesn't sell a home. It's the individual agent's activities. Do you feel I could sell your home? Do you see it? I'm not arguing. I'm nodding my head. I'm smiling, right? I can understand your concern. So our first rule is never argue, always agree. The second rule, smile and nod your head a lot. Boy, does this give people confidence. Stone face. We want you to cut the commission. It's not going to work. That doesn't build confidence. Oh, I get this. It's okay. It's okay. You're not hurting me. It's fine. Comfortable, calm. Smile and nod your head. Talk about building confidence, right? C, ask a lot of questions. Hey, have we gotten clear that this is a question deal? This whole thing about selling? Have we covered this? It's questions, right? You'll notice in our objection handlers, you can see the questions. Do you feel I can sell your home, right? There's just questions. I see question marks riddled all over this. Why? Because questions solve the problem. So ask a lot of questions. Right next to that, just follow the script. Just follow the script. You don't have to come up with a lot. Just follow our scripts all the way through. You don't have to create anything. We've created all of it for you. Okay, just follow the script. It works. All right. D, listen carefully to the answers. Listen carefully. Our objection handlers, when you respond and you ask questions, if you start talking over the top of them, or it looks like you're not interested or you're not looking, right? Oh no, I got it. What do you? No, I'm paying attention. Really, that's not going to work. You make eye contact. You listen carefully to the answers. That way, they feel very heard, right? E, answer the objection if necessary. Answer the objection if necessary. Remember what we said earlier? If you can just keep moving forward in your presentation, there's a good chance it'll go away. If necessary, we have the response. You follow me on this? Good. And then F, close for the signature. If you notice, all of our objection handlers, all we need to do now is simply sign the contract. So I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Won't that be great? That's a close, right? You always ask for the signature. All we need to do is sign the contract. You're going to see this a million times in this. In your role play and practice, have you been saying that over and over? You're going to say it thousands of times in your career. And then you're going to get thousands of signatures, which we all expect, okay? It's very important, right? Number 10, knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. When it comes to handling objections, knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. Knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. The more knowledgeable you are about the answers, the responses, the market conditions, the 5-step listing process, the scripts and dialogues we use, the more knowledgeable you are, the more confident you are. And the more confident you are, the more the seller understands and feels and knows that you're the right person for the job. So, do you have to work on your knowledge? Yes. Right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how knowledgeable are you on the responses to the objections? Okay. If you don't know, then you're probably afraid of them, right? We want you to cut the commission. How much? That's not the response, right? Our simplest. That's one of our fun ones, by the way, right? No. Any other questions? Do you know how undeniable that is for many people? So many people they're not mean enough, they're not, aggressive enough to overcome that. Hey, we want you to cut your commission. No. Any other questions? You know how many people, this is a response you'll get. Oh, we had to try. Sorry, honey, I told you, we shouldn't do that. You get that response all the time from people. Or you can go, how much? Right? No. Any other questions? Right? It's so powerful if you really think about it. Knowledge equals confidence. Ignorance equals fear. Do you have some work to do? You have a lot of work to do, don't you? Okay, good. Are you doing the work? All right. 11. This is important. Remember way back when you set up your prospecting station? Are you using it? Is it set up? Do you have the mirror and the headset and you're going? Okay, good. I hope, right? Keep the toughest objections and the responses posted in front of you. You can just read them at times. Remember what I said, if you go to our website, if you go to the resources page, if you go to scripts, there's things like the toughest objections answered, powerful closes for prospecting. Those things are all right there. Got them right here in front of you, right? Why wouldn't you, if you're receiving an objection all the time on the phone, you simply go from here on the phone to here and you read it. set yourself up to win. Okay, put the toughest ones in front of you. Okay, so I want to look at these. We're going to take a second. We're going to go through these objections. Okay, and I just want us to go through them. We're not going to role play and rehearse them here today. We don't have time. Okay, but I do want to spend a few minutes to have you just understand these things. Okay, so we're going to read through these a little bit. And you get a chance to see them, right? We want to give you a 30-day listing. I'm sorry, I won't do that. 6 months is our company policy. Therefore, all we have to do now is simply sign the contract so I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Won't that be great? We were thinking about X company. Very common. Very common. You know, it's a natural instinct for someone to maybe compare some different companies. I don't know if you're working for a big nationwide, nation brand, big powerful company or a small independent boutique office. It doesn't matter. Okay? Well, it maybe matters to you, but it really, when it comes to objection handling, right? Think about the logic in this. I can understand your concern, and I think you realize a company doesn't sell a home. It's the individual agent's activities. You know how powerful do you feel I can sell your home is? You know how powerful that little line is? Do you feel I can sell your home? What a great question. No, I don't think you can. You think you'll get that response very often? Okay. The idea is the delivery, right? The confident delivery. It's a tough one, right? And you see it right there. All we need to do now is simply sign the contract. Nice little close. It looks familiar now, doesn't it? Look at the third one. We'll save the commission by selling
This
it
returns
ourselves.
its on.
Some people have that thought. Wow, I look down, it's $28,000 we're going to pay for commissions on the sale of this house. $28,000? Man, I think we'll sell it ourselves and save that commission. Look at the words, look at the logic. I agree you can save the commission by selling it yourself. I agree. Are you arguing? No, you're agreeing. Are you aware that today over blank homes are for sale? Now you have to know the stats. There's 600 homes for sale, and last month only 32 actually sold. You have to know the stats. And that's about, what are we looking at? We're looking at about a 6-month supply of homes. And that's if no other homes come on the market. And last month, 42 homes came for sale. Wait for the answer. You see it right there. Wait for the answer. And what's worse is the fact that only 2% of all for sale by owners sell themselves, and 98% are listed and sold by real estate agents. Can you afford to have only a 2% chance of selling your home? You see the power in that, right? Let's do the right thing and simply sign the contract. Man, that's just a powerful thing if you get that objection, right? Undeniable. You see the logic? You see it? You have to know your stats on that one, okay? You can't wing it on that one, right? Let's list high. We want to come down later. Ooh, there's a new one, right? You're going to hear that a couple hundred times in your career, right? Let's list up here. We'll come down later, right? I understand you want to list high. We're not arguing. We're nodding. To leave room for negotiating. Have you considered the problem that causes for you? There's a question, right? Most people won't even bother looking at a home that is priced too high. Would you rather have a bidding war on your home, or would you have no opportunity to negotiate at all? Pretty simple, right? All we need to do now is simply sign the contract. See how logical this stuff is? It's so simple. Are these any big, long answers? One thing you know about Mike Ferry, most of our dialogues don't have big, long answers. That's not how selling works. They have really direct approach, right? We want to think it over. That's great. Since 3 minds are better than 2, let's think out loud together. Tell me, what are you thinking about? Right? Pretty straight ahead, isn't it? Since 3 minds are better than 2, let's think out loud together. Tell me, what are you thinking about? Boy, that one works so incredibly well. I can just think of the listings that I've taken in my career over that one, right? We want to sleep on it. You're right, this is a big decision, isn't it? Yet the decision must be made based upon what you want. Correct? Question there. Correct? Let's do this. Let's sign the contract contingent on your approval within 24 hours. That way we both win. Can I tell you how? You have 24 hours with no pressure, so you can feel comfortable and sleep on it tonight. I'll call you in the morning and you simply tell me yes or no. If you say no, I rip up the contract. If you say yes, I begin marketing the property immediately. Either way, all we need to do now is simply sign the contract. Boy, there's so much power in that. There is so much power in, let's go ahead and sign it. You can sleep on it tonight so you can feel comfortable. You know, I saw Mike Ferry did this in a practice presentation live. One of the first presentations I really got to witness him do. It was on stage, a role play, right? And that objection came up. You can probably find this on, do we have this on our website? I don't know. Anyway, you can find this. So, and that objection came out just like clockwork, right? And they go, okay, well, we'll sign it. And they signed it. They signed the contract. And he said, okay, well, now that you've signed it, do you just want to get started? You know what? Let's get started. It works like a charm, okay? Right? Have a friend in the business. I can appreciate that, and almost everyone does. So let me ask you, do you absolutely have to sell your home? Or are you just looking to do your friend a favor? Obviously, you had me out for a reason, right? Do you feel I can sell your home? So powerful. So I want to go through a few of these with you. There's 12. There's 12 major ones, which you'll see, right? We could go through all 12, but we're going to go through those, okay? The work is on your shoulders. You've got to put in the work, okay? I need you to really accept the fact that you could, well, let's look at homework because it'll make it easier. The homework is going to get you there, okay? Put the objection handlers in your prospecting area. That's a pretty simple homework assignment, right? Post the objections that you're going to receive in your prospecting area. Can you do that one? Pretty fast, right? 2, make flashcards of the 12 most common objections and work to memorize and internalize 2 or 3 a week. So what if you took these 12 and let's say you didn't buy our trigger cards, it's fine. But if you the fast path is the trigger card, okay? And what if you got these trigger cards and you said, okay, I want to do, we want to give you a short-term listing and we were thinking about X company, right? And I want to do those 2. And so this week, I'm going to memorize, internalize, I'm going to lock these things down back and forth, and I'm going to spend a few minutes a day and I'm going to have a little test for myself at the end. If you did that and you took 2 a week, in 6 weeks, you would have mastered the objections that some agents have taken 30 years and they still don't know them. You could do in 6 weeks what some agents have taken their entire career and you could pass right by it. Are you new to the business? Is this foundation going to be set for you? Do you want to just blow by some of the other agents that are there stalled out? One way to do that would be for you to take 2 or 3 of them a week, memorize and internalize them, and in no time, these won't even be a problem for you. Okay, then you just have to practice them once in a while. 3 I wrote down. Include practice and role play of the objections in your daily role plays. So now if you've got your role play partners, which I hope you do, you start making sure that they add in some of these objections, right? Hey, let's role play the just listed, just sold, and I want us to get into that spot where we have a friend in the business, right? Or we want to wait. I want to start role playing these things. Let me get on the listing presentation. I'm presenting today and they want to list really high. So I want you to make sure and throw that one in because I want to handle that one. Can you set up your role plays a little more specifically now? Yeah, so you can learn. How about adding in the ones you're memorizing this week into your role plays this week? Now we're talking. Okay, now we're really on it, right? And then 4, this is a big one, 4, homework. Make a recording of you handling the 12 most common objections. You turn that phone on recorder, right? You take them one at a time. We want to give you a 30-day listing. You handle, I don't really like that. Erase. Okay, good. Let's do it again. That was pretty good. Let's move on to number 2. Get all 12 of them in your best version for today. Get all 12 in today's best version, and then start listening back. There is nothing more powerful than you hearing your own voice doing the job right. You hear yourself going through the objection handlers and you spend a few minutes a day and you go through them all. Next thing you know, you're starting to chant along with yourself. Next thing you know, you go all the way through the tape and you could basically repeat it. You know that favorite movie of yours? You know when you start repeating the lines of your favorite movie before they do? That's this. I want to have you get to that space. Okay, so we're in a really great spot. This is the handling objections portion. The work is now on your side. You've got to do the homework for this section. Let's be very diligent in the homework and keep building your foundation. You're well along the way, and I am excited about your progress. Thanks for your time today.
microphone too. So now it's turned on.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so it picks up multi-directional. So now they can hear you. So don't talk bad about everybody. Oh.
Session is about to start. Okay.
The lending will be hearing this on capital. So I have to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go into cubicle, make some calls. Oh, I was gonna say. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, just let me wrap up real quick by just telling you that going through this, you can't hear me? Don't know why, everything's turned on.
I
you
can,
hear?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I don't know why, because everything must be turned on. All right, anyway, just a real quick wrap up, and that's to let you know that the scripts that we have for Mike Ferry, and there are other scripts, okay? Tom Ferry, his son, he's got some scripts out there. Brian Buffini's got some scripts out there. It's not so much who you use, although, you know, we like Mike Ferry because he's a basic instructor. They're people who
Right.
teach basics. But it's not so much who you use as that you use. Get those objections in your mind ahead of time, get your answers in your mind ahead of time, write your own script, I don't care. But have something in mind so that when that question, that objection, that condition comes out, you have an answer. It's like instantaneous. You know an answer to give them right then. When they try to fight you on commission, when they try to fight you on price, when they try to fight you on disclosures and what they have to tell somebody and whatever, follow those through so that you have those. He went over the, you know, like 12 of the top ones and things. Learn those. Not that you're going to say them word for word necessarily on the other end when somebody throws it out, but when somebody hits you with that question or hits you with that condition, you have an answer automatic. It's not, you know, you don't have to think about it.
Right.
It's just automatic. And so that's kind of where you want to get. And I will let,
It all comes down to memorization,
yeah.
familiarization.
Yeah. Did you ever, were you in school young enough to, or were you, did you ever have to learn multiplication tables? You know, 2 times 2, 2 times 4 and all those kind of things.
Same concept.
Kind of the same concept, you know, if you repeat it enough in your mind and things, then you know the answer. It comes, yeah, it's just a memory. And,
And also too, they said that they provide some of the scripts here. Is that
Yes.
true? So do you think I can get a copy, Terry?
yeah, absolutely.
Whenever you get a chance?
Yeah, you know what? Shoot me an email. And I'll make sure they get shot back to you.
How do we get a copy of the scripts that we have right now?
Okay, I'll tell you what, if you will send me your email, just message it to me or something. My phone number is 951-551-4714. And if you just message me your email, then I will email you the scripts.
I'm sorry.
Could you repeat that again one more time, please?
Yes.
951-551-4714.
Terry, I have a question going back to disclosures.
You get it?
951-551-47.
14.
4714.
Yes. And if you just message me your email, then I'll turn around and get it to you.
Perfect.
Okay?
So we could
Perfect.
actually get a physical, tangible copy.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'll send it to your email and then you can print it or you can do whatever you want with it. Wallpaper. Help you remember. Yeah, if you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question regarding disclosures.
Yes.
Is it good practice and what is the company's policy when giving disclosures and contracts? Is it good practice to highlight certain passages of the contract or is that frowned upon?
That's me. Truthfully, it's not frowned upon. Now that the highlighter doesn't come out black and things, you know, because sometimes when you highlight with the wrong thing, it grays it and makes it hard to read. But as long as you use a legible yellow, or I use yellow and pink, you see my stuff. I do that every time I do a contract with where they have to sign and the dates that things apply. I don't go through and highlight it like I do on the training packets. But I do highlight all the areas that I need to make sure that they sign. Now, I send it out DocuSign most of the time. But it's highlight, I bring their little signature down or their initial down, it's still highlighted. So it's something that stands out to them, but I don't go through and highlight individual items that they should pay attention to.
Yeah, because I know that some brokers don't want you to highlight because they consider it steer it, like you're kind of steering the party in one direction or
Yeah,
another.
I don't highlight any of those things, that's just for the contract thing.
Right.
But I do highlight where they're supposed to sign and those kind of things, so.
Hey, Terry.
Yes,
In the handout that was in the chat section, it has 12 objections in there. Are there more objection handlings that you have?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, there are, Brian, if you want to, if you want to shoot me your email so I don't have to try to dig it out of our 1,700 agent
Sure.
handbook thing. I'll make sure that you get the full script thing, and it has, I think there's about 40 in that one.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody, I'll let you go. Tomorrow, I don't think tomorrow's Wednesday, I think.
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
I think it's a free day for classes. Free like we don't have anything. We probably, our next class on contracts is on Friday
Okay.
at 10 o'clock. Just check the
Well,
calendar.
but that's strictly just for lenders only.
No. On Friday, it'll be for
Oh, here.
Here.
Okay, perfect. Friday at same time,
10.
10 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Terry. It's
You
always a
all have a
pleasure.
good day. Call if you need anything, now that you have my phone number. I know you didn't have it before, right?
All right.
Right, Loopy? You-
Yes,
you
I
come
have
just
your
a few
phone
minutes
number.
ago. We'll see you, I'll see you tomorrow probably.
All right, I'll see you here.
I will be in Chino Hills.
Bye. Bye.
Can
All
you
right.
repeat phone number one more time?
I'm not sure if I should, Carla. It's kind of scary to just give out my phone number. 951 551 4714.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, talk to you soon.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Also, Terry, I had a question. I was wondering if you and Eddie are still doing the monthly hangout at the end of the month.
We are. It's the last week of the month.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
be in-
Thank you, Terry.
Absolutely. Okay. I think it's Canyon Lake. Monday morning. And Murrieta Monday afternoon. And then San Diego Tuesday morning and Oceanside Tuesday afternoon. And Hemet Wednesday morning and Temecula Wednesday afternoon. And Chino Hills Thursday morning and Corona Thursday afternoon. All right. Hi, everybody. Yes.
You're listed as my advisor. What does that